Always used to write stories as a kid, like of me playing at a World Cup.
The Lionesses have taken the global stage by storm in recent years, standing on the shoulders of giants like Rachel Yankey, Alex Scott and Kelly Smith. But there's one player carving out her name in history, cementing her place amongst these greats, Mary Earps.
People don't see a lot of the stuff that goes on behind the scenes, like there's still plenty of change and wins to be made.
Her heroic displays during the UEFA Women's Euro 2022 tournament and 2023 Women's World Cup rightly earned her worldwide recognition. She's a FIFA Best, England Women's 2023 Player of the Year, Personality of the Year and World Cup Golden Glove winner.
Winning the Euros, biggest highlight hands down, nothing comes close.
But it hasn't all been highs.
If I could change one score in any game, it would be to win that World Cup final.
She shares her struggles with mental health, dealing with the pressures of performing on the world's biggest stage and representing England at the highest level.
I've definitely had instances of people, banging on car windows or trying to grab you and things like that.
An advocate and a fearless campaigner for women's football and equality. This is Mary Earps and this is her story.
The Reading story especially was devastating as an ex-player. Hi, I'm Mary Earps. I'm a professional footballer for PSG and the Lionesses, and this is She's a Baller Point of View.
Can you tell us a little bit about where you're from and what your childhood and teenage years were like growing up?
So I'm from Nottingham originally. Born and bred, grew up there. Childhood, I guess, pretty steady. I've got a younger brother and a younger sister. And I definitely played a lot of football with my brother and my dad growing up. I feel like I spent most of my childhood in the garden or at the pitches at Alford Road, round the corner from where I live. So, just school, homework, football, pretty much on repeat.
And what's your relationship like with your parents and your siblings? Like, how close are you guys?
Yeah, I think family life is, it's always nice to kind of, your family to see kind of where you've been and where you've come from and watch your football journey from the beginning to now. So yeah, I feel like that's kind of how it's been for me. I definitely wouldn't be in the position that I'm in today without kind of my parents driving me here, there and everywhere and to Leicester and back and all the way around the country really for my football. But I think definitely my brother and my dad were a big part of my football journey growing up.
And how often do you get to see them now?
Not too much. Obviously, I live in Paris now. I've been out there a few weeks. So it's tough to get home, and that's kind of one of the sacrifices of being a footballer. You don't really have too much of a personal life. It's very full on. I get home and as much as I can. But unfortunately, it's not as much as I would like.
And who do you think your biggest role models were growing up?
Tough, I think my family were a big part in my childhood and growing up and kind of, I guess, the values instilled in me. But I think footballing wise, I just loved watching football, loved studying different types of goalkeepers. I liked that there was no one right way to do things. Everyone, you'd watch the Premier League every weekend and you'd have Hugo Lloris and doing it one way, and then you'd be watching, Manuel Neuer or Ter Stegen doing it a completely different way, Buffon doing it a completely different way. So, I watched a load of different goalkeepers growing up.
And in terms of the sort of goalkeeping position, do you think that's changed? Do you think the demands on goalkeepers has become more in terms of, previously just being a shot-stopping position, but now distribution, game management, communication?
Yeah, for sure. The role of a goalkeeper's changed massively. Since I was a kid. I think there's lots of elements to it now. I think the biggest element that people tend to focus on quite a lot is distribution and playing out from the back, and I think that's probably mostly due to Edison and Man City's way of playing. But I think the beauty of goalkeeping is that everybody does it a different way and everyone has different strengths and different ways of kind of imposing themselves or inflicting themselves on the game. And I really love that. I really love watching how different goalkeepers do things across the men's and women's game. And there's no real textbook to it. And for me, that the beauty of it is the uniqueness of it.
And what would you say is the Mary Earps style of goalkeeping?
Oh, I don't know. Super passionate. I guess I just try and do whatever I can to help the team, put my body on the line. Yeah, I think I'm a big communicator, big organiser. Yeah, I'd like to think people think I play with courage and bravery and yeah, with a lot of heart. Yeah, that's what I'd like people to think, I guess.
And the fans obviously love your passion, your energy. You've built up an amazing relationship with the fan base. I mean, some people have gone as far to call you sweary Earps on the pitch. How important is it to you to be able to kind of show your personality on the pitch and to fans?
I think it's just important for me to be able to be unapologetically myself, be authentically who I am. I think growing up, maybe I, was scared to be vulnerable or was scared to be who I was, and I tried to fit in maybe more than I do now. I just try and, just kind of, do and be whoever I am. And I feel like that's probably, maybe I'd like to think that's why I have like a good relationship with the fans, is because they see me just being a goofball, or if I'm sad, I'm sad, if I'm happy, I'm happy, and I don't try and fake it, I suppose. But I don't know. I'm just really grateful that, to have the support of, incredible fans, incredible people, and long may that continue.
And you mentioned there a little bit about your sort of engagement with the fans, how they see you as a role model. Obviously, a big part of your career has been your advocacy with the World Cup, obviously the bonus situation, and then obviously going into the World Cup with the goalkeeper Lionesses kit. How important is it to you to kind of have that level of advocacy in the women's game, and feel free to do that?
Yeah, I think it's important. I always try and lead by example. But I think, to be honest, it's a tough role to play. I think it's a fine line between, I guess, voicing your opinion and standing up for what you believe in. And I think especially when you've got a platform or you feel like you've got a voice that is prepared to be heard, is to try and represent people in the right way. Use your voice for good and not evil, not for selfish reasons, but for the good of the future, for the good of future generations. But I think that it is a really fine line, because you can be viewed as too vocal or a troublemaker or always complaining about something. And I feel like you have to be secure in what you're fighting for, and secure in who you are as a person, because with being quite vocal comes with quite a lot of criticism. But I hope that people see what I try and do and see what I try and change as a real positive thing in the world. And I hope that the future generations of young footballers will feel the benefit of that.
When you've had those moments of kind of sticking your head above the parapet, has there ever been a kind of feeling of nerves or being scared about sort of what the next stages look, or the kind of criticism? Or
yeah, for sure. Like you don't know what the outcome's going to be. The reality of it is that if you put your neck on the line and people chop it off at the block, it's not really a great feeling. And that's always, I guess, the risk of being prepared to stand up for something. Sometimes you might have to stand alone. And people don't see a lot of the stuff that goes on behind the scenes. Like, there's normally a lot of preparation work or a lot of quiet conversations that go on before big, loud conversations. So of course it can be tough, and it can also take a lot of energy as well, because you're spending a lot of time thinking, preparing, or trying to articulate yourself in a certain way, or bouncing ideas off people, or trying to find people you trust. So it's it's not as simple as maybe sometimes it looks. But as I say, I think as long as I can create positive change, then I hope to continue to be brave enough to do all those things.
And how do you recover in those moments when you get those kind of the feelings of doubt that creep in, maybe anxiety around some of the things that you don't know what it's going to look like, I suppose, and where does your support network fit into that?
I think, to be honest, it's about relying on the people around you a little bit and being able to talk to people openly. I think I struggled for a long time to be able to open up and be vulnerable. I think I saw it as a weakness for the longest time. But now I feel much more comfortable to, share, I guess, concerns or anxieties I may have. And I'm really lucky to have really incredible people in my life who I think will give me a balanced opinion and will tell me to shut up when I'm not talking about anything important, but will also lift me up and guide me and advise me and give me the courage to do those things. So, I'm very lucky.
And what's the one thing you'd say that the women's football, or that needs to change about the women's football industry at the moment?
Oh, tough. That is a big question. I think that the game is in a really good place. I think if you look back to 10 years ago to where it is now, there's been a lot of significant change, and that's a really beautiful thing. But in all honesty, everybody associated with the women's game can appreciate the progression, but they can also appreciate that there's a long way to go and a lot of battles and wins to be had. And I think sometimes social media makes it look like things are sunshine and roses and rainbows, and it's not like that. There are fantastic things about the game. We get to do fantastic things, and I love what I do. I'm very grateful that I can do this as a job. I never imagined it for the longest time. It has taken me all over the world to incredible places, meeting incredible people. But yeah, there's still plenty of change and wins to be made. I think the thing that I would love to see the most in the game over the next couple of years, if I really had to be beaten with a stick to pick one thing, would be, I would love to see the game being produced on television better than what it is. I would love to see replays, cameras of better quality, more camera angles. I was having a conversation probably a few years ago now, probably 2-3 years ago, about the difference between the amount of cameras that cover a Premier League game, for example, and the amount of cameras that cover a WSL game. And I can't remember the exact numbers, but it was multiples. You know, I think there was 2 camera angles. There might be a couple more now at that time. And maybe there were one behind the goal and one in the stand. And I think for me, it's one of the beauties of the Premier League and the men's game is that it's a constant source of debate and discussion. And I don't think that we can have those levels of discussions in the women's game because we don't have things in place that allow us to do that. For example, if, let's say, in a situation where there's not goal line technology, how can we tell if a ball's over the line or not? And, you know, if you're watching, let's say, Match of the Day or an equivalent highlight show, they would have loads of different things going on. The speed of the ball, animations, probably about 7 different camera angles to show you this one moment in time. And you can't have that in women's football. And there's an element of investment and business and, profit margins and things like that, which I understand. But if I could pinpoint one thing, I would say that, because I don't think we can have accurate discussions, accurate debates. And so then what happens is whoever's person's opinion is there at the time would then get imitated by lots of other people. When if we had, I just think it's fun. I mean, when you watch some of the pundits on TV for men's football going at it, arguing tooth and nail and putting some verbal assassinations across one another, it's fun, it's entertainment. And I don't think we quite have that yet because we can't see the game in the same way and we can't debate it in the same way. So yeah, that's what I'd say.
How does it feel being so well known and so well recognised?
It's a surreal feeling. I don't think it was something that I ever grew up expecting. Definitely wasn't something I grew up wanting. I think my biggest dream ever was to, represent my country at major tournaments, hopefully be lucky enough to win a few trophies. I always used to write stories as a kid. My mum probably still has them somewhere, like of me playing at a World Cup, and I'm so grateful that I was able to fulfil that dream last year. I guess I don't really think too much about the rest of it. I guess I'm grateful to have that connection with people, I think, the most, and be able to hear their stories and how maybe, women's football or the Lionesses or my goalkeeping journey has inspired them in some way. I think that for me is the biggest thing, hearing people getting back into football after they fell out of love with it for a long time, or being able to speak on their journey with their own health or their own anxiety or worries or anything like that. I'm just grateful that I can be able to be some small part of that in some way. But the rest of it, I guess I just try and focus on football really as much as I can and be grateful for the other incredible opportunities that I never imagined possible.
And I think obviously with sort of being a bit more of a household name, and we just had the sort of Chelsea announcement that they're going to be sort of reducing the contact that fans have with players, obviously for safety. Do you feel like there's ever kind of issues with being able to respect like privacy and kind of like the safety of players as it becomes more mainstream? Has that ever been something you've had to sort of deal with at all?
I think in all honesty, yes. I think the game has changed a lot in the last couple of years, really quite dramatically, that this was never a topic really a couple of years ago. I think, you know, we've gone from playing at one stage, playing, you know, in front of less than 50 people, less than 100 people, to now 50, 60, 70, 80,000 people regularly, which I've got to say I love doing. It's a buzz. But with that and with the game becoming more well-known and more spoken about, which is of course what we've been fighting for, I think what comes with it is, maybe some things that we never anticipated. And I think it is hard being in the public eye somewhat and trying to have your own space and your own time and your own private life. I think it is difficult, and I understand the eagerness to, and I enjoy interacting with fans. But I think sometimes, of course, it's difficult to have that boundary between maybe Mary Earps, the footballer, and just Mary, who just is just chilling or going to the shops or whatever like that. And I think I understand it from a club's point of view. I know it's just difficult, because I think for me as a player, like, I want to give the fans as much time as I possibly can. One, because I enjoy that interaction, and I'm really grateful that they come to the game, and I want to show that appreciation, and I want to hear from them. I want to hear their story, but at the same time, it's impossible to get round to everybody, and I've definitely had instances where then you're kind of open to criticism because you sign a few hundred or a few thousand, or maybe not a few thousand, maybe that's too many, but as I say, you might sign 1,000 autographs after a game, but the 1,001st person is unhappy, and that's always really difficult. And I've definitely had instances of people, I don't know, banging on car windows or trying to grab you and things like that in moments where, I think physical touch is always a difficult one, but as much as you try and give as much energy and you try and give as much as you can back, sometimes it feels like it's not enough. And I think Man City did something, I don't know if this is the same thing, but Man City did something with like Autograph Alley, I think it was. And I thought that was a really interesting concept, and when I spoke to the girls about it who play at City, they seemed to really like it, and it seemed like it was a good balance. But I guess it's kind of managing that frustration that maybe the fans sometimes feel, but also recognising that, the football is to come first, and hopefully they feel happy with the football product that they see. So.
We're going to move on a little bit just now to talk about the sort of move from Manchester United to PSG. Obviously, before that was the Wolfsburg to Man United move in 2019. A very different space back then, newly created club, Casey Stoney, surrounded by talent, yourself, LJ, Toon, Galton. Skipped to 5 years later, qualified for obviously the Champions League, FA Cup win at Wembley, WSL runners-up. Can you talk to us a little bit about your experiences at Man United?
Yeah, I think I was at Man United for 5 years. Fortunate to have lots of incredible memories there. Play in the Champions League, win the FA Cup. I think I developed a lot as a player and as a person there, and met some incredible people that I hope will stay friends for forever, really. It just sometimes you need a change. And
are you able to sort of go down into a little bit more detail about sort of why it is that you decided to move to PSG out of all the other clubs that I suppose might have come knocking?
For me, there was a number of things, really. I think the biggest thing, the all-round thing, is that when I was hearing the vision and ambition of PSG, and like we had a presentation, for example, the other day where they outlined that they want to be the best team in the world on and off the pitch, and for me that really excites me. That's exactly where I want to be. It's a huge team, really talented, and I think that there's opportunity to win hopefully a lot of trophies there. So I'm excited to be in that squad that with players that I think are really going to challenge me every day. And it's a completely different, it's a different language, different culture. different training environment, everything, and all of these things I think were really about pushing me out my comfort zone and, as I say, challenging me, because I really have this thing in my head that I want to push myself to my maximum potential, and I don't want to leave anything on the table. I don't want to ever look back and think, oh, if I was just brave enough, then maybe I'd have got an extra % out myself. So I want to max out on all the percentages that I've possibly got in my locker before it's time to call time, and because the careers go quick and the careers are short. So yeah, for me, that's what it was about. It was just maxing out and yeah, hopefully being in a position to win some trophies.
And how are you adjusting to life in France? We saw that you were doing some sort of French lessons, things like that. Can you let us know? Can you give us a bit of an update?
Oh, update. Where do I even start? It has been a crazy roller coaster so far. I've been there, well, I was in France for like 3 weeks, I think, and then we went to Australia for 10 days. So I've been at the club, I think, about 5 weeks now, and it's been great. It's been a challenge. It's so difficult with the language, but hopefully I'll learn and I'll get better. I'm making a lot of effort. The girls will vouch. I'm making a lot of effort to try and learn and fit in. But yeah, it's been nice to also have the girls back from the Olympics and kind of bond a little bit as a team and get some minutes on the pitch. But yeah, so far it's a tough adjustment. It's hard. Like, as much as I want to sit here and tell you how great it is, which I'm really enjoying. I think Paris as a city is unbelievable. There's a lot to think about and a lot of change.
What do you think's been the biggest change for you?
I think things are run very differently. So all these things, when you've been somewhere for 5 years, you know it like clockwork. You know where to be, what time. You know, it sounds really stupid, but you know, like where the parking is, or like all these little things. All the way things are done. I don't know, like if you have to go in for a meeting at a certain time, or if you know you need to go in and weigh yourself at a certain time. Like, you know, all these little things in the schedule, like off like the back of your hand, and it's just a whole load of information all at once, and you're trying to remember it all at the same time as, I don't know, trying to set up a bank account and social security number and getting a residency pass and Wi-Fi and all these things, finding an apartment while you don't speak the language. It's definitely an interesting task. So there's like football stuff, which you're adjusting to, and then non-football stuff. And they all come together, because as soon as you feel settled off the pitch, you can perform better on the pitch, and they really do link in. So yeah, it's a whirlwind.
So you've moved out of because we saw that this wonderful clip of you doing sort of a tutorial of where your house was, the hotel room, things like that.
Yeah.
So you've moved into an apartment now.
I have a temporary apartment, and then when I get back in a couple of days, I should get the keys to my new apartment, which will be mine.
And what do you do with your time off in Paris? Is it kind of like cycling around, baguette in the basket, beret, that kind of vibe?
It's so Emily in Paris. Picturesque, you won't believe it. So far, I think I've had 1 day off in Paris so far, and it consisted of rest, sleeping, recovery pumps, and not a lot else. Errands, maybe going to the supermarket. So far, I've not had a lot of time off in Paris. The first week or so, I spent a lot of time trying to find out like where to live and apartment hunting and things like that. So it was a lot of driving around and all that. But no, nothing quite as romantic as cycling around with baguettes in the basket just yet. But maybe when I've got some downtime.
Have you had any teammates come over and visit you in Paris so far? Is it still early days?
No, God, no. I don't think, to be honest, I don't think with my pre-season schedule and their pre-season schedule, I don't think it would work at all. But I think a few of the girls will be eyeing coming over, and to be honest, they'd probably prefer it if I wasn't there for the weekend and they could just have my apartment. So I'm sure I'll be asked about that at some point.
Do you still sort of keep in contact with a lot of the girls at the Man United team?
Yeah, I mean, I've spoke to Toonie recently. It was her birthday. I keep in touch with a few of them, and I speak quite often to my goalkeeper coach. He's been getting regular, what I like to call Mary Earps podcasts, which are 8-minute voice notes, which my teammates don't particularly enjoy, but my goalkeeper coach at Man United, he seems to put up with. So we've caught up a little bit. But to be honest, it's been a crazy time. I think voice notes is how I've been keeping up with people mostly. And then especially in Australia with the time difference, it was wild. So, I've been keeping in touch with a few people back home for sure.
So we've all heard the kind of narrative around sort of some of the issues that we've had with Blackburn, Reading. Do you think there's still a perception somewhat with sort of mainstream media that there's, that women's football is in a better space than it actually is when you kind of hear stories about sort of the turbulence at some of those clubs?
Definitely. I think that's kind of what we spoke about a little bit earlier, is that women's football is in a great space, generally. But there are still a lot of struggles. And I think sometimes the women's game is described, or everything about women's football is relevant only to maybe a few clubs. And the reality of it is that it's not like that everywhere. Like the Reading story especially was devastating as an ex-player. And you feel really helpless. And I knew a few of the girls that were still there, or staff members that were still there. And you look at the players that they've developed over the years, for example, and it's just gutting to hear clubs go through that sort of thing. I know it's the ugly side of the business sometimes, and I know that the men's game also experiences these sorts of things, and bankruptcy and financial issues. I understand that, but yeah, in women's football, I guess it just hits home a little bit more, because you know that it could be you that could be going through that, or your teammate, or you might know someone who's going through it. But also, I think there's a lot on the line as well as a female player, because the lifestyles and the salaries aren't the same. So a lot of people it's their whole livelihood, and the opportunities are fewer and farther between in terms of maybe people have jobs and they're not able to travel that far, and I don't know, it's just it's so difficult to hear that sort of thing. And I think being connected I'm so connected to that club. I coached there a little bit. I had my own coaching company there. I know a few of the kids who came through the RTC and stuff like that. It's devastating, but it just also shows how much work there still is to do, and how we have to stay grounded. And there are incredible success stories, and the game is going in a great direction. But let's not forget teams who are struggling maybe a little bit, and what can we do to help, and what can we do to make the game as sustainable as possible at all levels, not just focusing on one league at the top. How can we focus on also the lower leagues and the grassroots? Because at the end of the day, that's where a lot of people come from. That's where a lot of people learn their craft. And without those leagues, you wouldn't have the top leagues. So yeah, I think it's really important that we look at it as a massive picture, and not just one league or a few teams in one league.
So who's the best player you've ever played against?
I'm going to go, the most difficult player I've ever played against, I'm going to go with is Marajan. I think that's been my consistent answer throughout my career, and I've played against some incredible players, but I feel like she was the first player I played against. When I was playing for Bristol Academy, we played against Frankfurt in the Champions League, and it felt like not one of the biggest wake-up calls, but it was like seeing her, playing against her. I remember she hit a free kick and it hit the bar before I even saw her kick the ball. It was that quick. And I think, she's always stood out as just like, wow, what a player.
Biggest highlight of your career?
Winning the Euros. Biggest highlight, hands down. Nothing comes close.
Biggest challenge or mistake or regret in your career so far?
Ooh, I don't believe in regrets. I believe that, everyone does everything with the best intentions at the time. I don't believe in regrets. I think, I don't know where I would go with that. I don't believe in that. I don't believe in looking back like that. I believe that, mistakes happen in life. It's normal. You learn from them and it makes you who you are. I think, I look back. I don't know if this is the answer to the question. If there was anything I could change, I would somehow win if we won the World Cup, that would have just been everything. You can't do that. If I could change one score in any game, it would be to win that World Cup final. I'm sure everybody would say that. But I don't believe in regrets. I don't believe in anything like that. But if I had a magic wand, a magic time machine, or a fairy godmother that could have somehow made us win that World Cup final against an incredible Spain team, that would be the one.
I'll honestly never forget it. I was there in the stadium when you saved that penalty. I thought that was it. I thought we had it.
Honestly, I love playing for my country. I love win, lose or draw. Like, playing for your country is unbelievable, but you play to win. And Spain are an incredible team, and I think they were worthy winners. They deserved to win for sure. But to play, just to play in a World Cup and then to play in a World Cup final, it's just, the icing on the cake would have just been to win. I wish that could have happened, but it wasn't meant to be. Life's not like that, and you've got to take the good with the bad. We won the Euros the year before, and you can't win everything. Well, I don't think you can win everything. Maybe ask Matty, she seems to win everything, so.
And finally, what does life look like for Mary Earps after football? Have you considered what that might be?
Not too much. Hopefully, just happy and healthy, with a family, just a nice little life. Hopefully, that's about it really. As carefree as possible.
In Paris?
Who knows? Who knows? I do love the city, but you never know. You never know where this world's going to take you. I didn't think I'd move to Paris in my career, and here I am. So life changes quick. We'll have to see.
Is there anything in particular you're sort of quite interested in getting into, sort of coaching or sort of the commercial side, or?
I'd love to. I think just own my own business. That's. I think. I like the freedom of that, being my own boss. But I don't know. Don't know what that would look like.
Watch this space.
Yeah, I hope so.
Perfect. Lovely. So thank you so much. Thank you.